You are now watching Lesage, the best place to learn about competitive Pokemon TCG. Let's get it! What's poppin' peeps? Welcome back to the channel, Lesage here. Today we are going to be covering over the top 10 best decks in format. We do this every single Monday at 12 p.m. Eastern. Which decks are going to be the best? Well, you could always take your guess in the comments below, and I do get back to every single person's comments. We've had some decks that have entered into the top 10, some decks that have shifted around, and ultimately we will find out during this video. By all means, give this video a thumbs up. It does help boost the YouTube algorithm and it really helps out. Also, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We are at past 9,500 subs. Can we get to 10K? It's so close. If everyone were to help out, it would really help out a lot. So in this video, we're just going to share the top 10 decks in the format. You get to learn about what's going on. If they're not my list, they are the best performing lists from the week. I do hand calculate these every single week, so by all means, it's kind of a staple video to watch if you want to learn what's going on in the game of Pokemon. In the pinned comment below, you can check and see what the top 10 decks are in a copy-pastable format, along with reference videos for most. If there's not a reference video, it's likely on my to-do list, but if there are any videos you want to watch, again, let me know in the comments below. Without further ado, we will be jumping into our number 10 spot. Let's get it. Intrepid sorting all the way to number 10 and falling all the way down from number 6 is Zacian V. Now, this deck's all about using Intrepid Sword, ripping energies. You can also use Metal Saucer and attacking with Brave Blade, knocking out your opponent's active, or using a quick boss's order. You also got Zamazenta V to kind of block some decks that don't really have strong answers against something that blocks VMAX Pokemon, and that's really where this deck is at. There's not really too much else going for it, so if you are balling on a budget, I do think that this is the type of deck that you might want to be rolling with. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's performing well at this particular moment. I found that this deck has been struggling against Mew, and I still feel it struggles a little bit against Jolteon VMAX, considering you've had to add in a couple stadiums to kind of go against it, but this deck's still not really seeing success. So between the way that the format's changing by having Gengar up at the top tables and even just like other random decks seeing success, I mean, we've seen Victini and Blaziken, Urshifu in the past week kind of pop up a little bit more. So it is one of those things where I think that Turbo Zacian is probably going to be laid to rest for a while. Likely just going into Brilliant Stars. I think players are looking for new decks that are a little bit more well equipped to handle the metagame. If you're a fan of a deck like this, by all means, play around with it. You could always pick up the cards for this deck at PTCGO plug in code Lesage5, pick up the codes, trade on PTCGO. And I mean, this deck did kind of come out in a league battle deck, so there are a lot of ways to get a lot of cards relatively quickly, but it's just not really holding up to the metagame. I think it's probably going to stay in the top 10, but it's really just not holding up to the metagame right now in the final few weeks of Fusion Strike. Burning it up at number 9 and dropping from number 7 last week is Victini VMAX. Now, this is a deck that Lee Bowie consistently plays and always seems to see the most success more than pretty much anyone else with the deck. I think that's probably a correlation that Lee is a very strong player, and when strong players make decks, they're probably making less mistakes than when players who don't totally understand how to play a deck. This deck's all about just using max victory and having some disruptive cards like Crushing Hammer, Fan of Waves, Pokemon Catcher, all of that stuff, along with Path to the Peak to kind of slow down the metagame while being incredibly aggressive. It's at 170 CP, reasonable amount of CP, like it's seeing some success, but not like a ridiculous amount of success. Just to put in perspective, the number 1 deck is around 1500 CP. So if you look at it, that deck is severely outperforming this deck. A lot of people ask me how I calculate the CP. It's based off of tournament placements between 4 players all the way till however big the events are on Limitless, with kickers for first, second, fourth, top 4, top 8, top 16, top 32, depending on the event. I kind of hand calculate every single event placement and add them in there. So a smaller event, of course, is going to be worth less CP. A larger event is going to be worth more CP. I think Victini VMAX is like kind of in an okay spot right now. But I'm also like always hesitant because these results are very much one-sided push by Lee, or even just like Lee plus Gabe Shumway. So it's one of those things where I think it's an okay deck. There's really nothing wrong with it, but I do think there's probably just better choices. That means that this is probably more of a metagame choice overall. Skyscrapering all the way to number 8, and previously at number 8, not really moving too much, is Duraludon VMAX. Duraludon VMAX is all about its skyscraper ability, blocking your opponent's Pokemon from damaging it as long as they have special energies. You can Crushing Hammer away their basic energies, and that's pretty much it. You're also going to be healing off damage with Crystal Cave, Team Yell Towel, etc, etc. I think Duraludon VMAX, very similar to Decidueye, is going to struggle against a lot of the metagame at certain points. This deck hit it off huge, where I think it took it all the way to number 3. And it stayed there for a little bit, and it's going to take an absolute dip. I think right now it's probably at the low end of the dip, so I could see Duraludon having a more successful week next week, just because players are probably going to be start cutting down their energy count in Mew. I know that I have. Players are starting to cut their path down, their path to the peak count down in Gengar. I know that I have. These are all factors that would allow Duraludon to see a little bit more success. Will it see more success? We'll have to figure it out, but it is one of those things where we might have to maybe it's time to bring out Duraludon. If you're a Duraludon VMAX player, you enjoy it, by all means check it out. If you want to know how I'm able to do all of this stuff, feel free to book a one-on-one coaching session with me at metafy.gg/@ZachLesage. That link is in the description. I can explain to you how I look at the metagame, how I play decks, how I build decks, and help you grow in whichever way you're looking to grow as a player. As a long-time player, I've been playing since 2005, I can definitely help out a lot of players. By all means, you don't have to, but it is certainly an option with in real life events coming back soon and all these online events. Anyways, we're going to be jumping into number 7. Rapid striking it up all the way to number 7, and jumping up from number 10 last week is Rapid Strike Urshifu with Galarian Moltres. Now, this build seems to be doing a little bit more, seeing a little bit more success at least than the one that plays Inteleon. So that's the reason why I decided to change it up for this week. I think both of them are somewhat viable. I'm definitely not the biggest fan because I do think there are better fighting and dark decks, or fighting or dark decks. But you want to know what? You got to give credit where credit is due. This deck's all about using Rapid Strike, or Gale Thresh, I should say, or G-Max Rapid Flow, using it on Rapid Strike Urshifu. And you also have Galarian Moltres, a way to accelerate energy, so you can kind of energy switch G-Max Rapid Flow, or you could just attack with the Galarian Moltres, again, something that's weak to dark. It's pretty easy strategy. I don't necessarily think this deck's going to go up. Next week, I think we're going to see a little bit of a different metagame. We did have a few decks sneak in just because the metagame is changing a little bit. So if you are a fan of this deck, I think this deck might not see as much success next week, but it does have a pretty decent matchup against the top 3 or 4 decks. So by all means, check that out. We'll have to see how it goes. Rapid Strike Urshifu is, it hasn't been the most successful in our Fusion Strike format. We'll have to see where it looks like for Brilliant Stars coming up real soon. Boom! At number 6, we got Stonjourner VMAX, something that a lot of people probably wouldn't have ever expected. It's been a really weird deck for a while, has come close to making it into the top 10, but has never made it in. But this position is largely based off of Vinny Fernandez coming second at the GG Tour tournament. The goal of this deck is to be kind of an attacking control deck, very similar to the Metagross deck that I covered the other day, where you have a lot of healing and kind of disruptive cards, and then you kind of build up energies and attack really quickly. Stonjourner VMAX, I'm not necessarily sure how I feel about it. It's one of those decks where it is got to be strictly a metagame call. There's a reason why decks like this spike into the top 10 and then completely fall off. If you're someone like Vinny, you go out there to GG Tour, you collect your bag, and then this deck falls off the face of the planets. So if you are trying it now, it might not be the most well-positioned because players will understand how to beat it and counter it and stuff like that. But it is one of those things where we do got to cover all the decks that do make the placement. Stonjourner VMAX is definitely a cool deck, especially for those who love rogue decks. I think if anything, this deck is going down next week, but maybe I'll be surprised and we'll catch on a little bit more play then. Galloping all the way to number 5 and leaping all the way over a lot of competition because it rose all the way from number 13 is Ice Rider Calyrex VMAX. I'm not entirely sure why this deck is rising. I think it might have been just catching on between a few players, and maybe people are like, oh, okay, I think it does okay. I feel like this past week we saw Metagross seeing a little bit of success. We saw a bunch of other things seeing a little bit of success. I don't know how I feel about this deck. Maybe with Zacian going down, this deck has to go up is probably the best way that I'd look at it. I'm not necessarily sure that I would say Zacian is a gatekeeper for this deck, but I think that between using Rider the High King and Max Lance with Melanie and choosing different damage and having kind of a bulky attacker is really strong. I brought a similar deck to the Players' Cup Invitational event. So I mean, I really like Ice Rider. I just don't necessarily think it's my favorite deck right now. But we'll have to see how it goes. I'd have to say that I think this deck is going to go down in play next week, just because it was at number 13. It might have just been a few spiked performances, but we'll have to see how it plays out this week. Again, if you are looking for any of the cards to build this deck, you could go to PTCGO plug in code Lesage5 to save 5% on your next order of codes. Super speedy, quick delivery, and you can also pick up Brilliant Stars codes with that discount code too, passing on some savings for you, and I get a little bit of a splashback, so it's a win-win situation for everyone involved. There you have it, Gengar at number 4. This deck continuously seeing success. I think this deck only saw 10 less CP than last week, which, I mean, on a week-to-week basis, of course, there's going to be some kind of changes. It fell down a spot to number 3, so that means that our top 3 compared to last week has definitely changed. Which deck do you think is going to be in the number 3 spot? Let me know in the comments below. Regardless, Gengar VMAX is all about using Gmax One Blow, or not Gmax One Blow, Gmax Swallow Up. I'm getting it confused with Single Strike. Unfortunately, we haven't seen Single Strike so far. Maybe it made top 3. Let me know. We also got Fear and Panic. So, I mean, you have some quick, efficient attacks, and you are able to power them up with the Houndoom. That's really the main strategy of this deck. I've changed this deck up a little bit by cutting a Path to the Peak and adding in a Karen's Conviction. I think those are the only changes that I've made so far. And it's just because we're seeing a little bit less Duraludon, and I think Karen's Conviction offers some really cool moments in a game. Overall, Gengar VMAX has strong matchups across the board. It is a little flimsy, a little inconsistent, but I do think it's going to probably stay within the top 5 going forward. So if you haven't played around with Gengar, I heavily recommend it to you. I am one of the people that have put a lot of effort into getting Gengar to where it is right now. So if you want to learn a little bit more about this deck or any other deck in a one-on-one kind of a coaching format, go to metafy.gg/@Zacian. I can definitely help you out there and see exactly how that goes on. The link is in the description for that. I do have openings available as early as this week. I'm friendly. Don't let the tattoos or dyed hair intimidate anyone. I really just want to help all the players of the community grow as much as possible. So definitely hit me up. And any questions, DMs and Twitter or Discord would be great. Coasting all the way into number 3, jumping up from number 4 last week is Dark Box. That's the name that we're going to go with it. I've always called this deck Galarian Moltres or Galarian. It's going to go with Dark Box right now. It might get a little bit confusing as Darkrai V-Star comes out later, but we'll have to figure that out once we cross that bridge. This deck's all about sacrificing single prize card Pokemon, such as Galarian Weezing or Hoopa, to your opponent's Pokemon, and while you're doing damage at the process, I mean, you're either trying to build up your opponent drawing prize cards so you can use Malevolent Charge, do a Fiery Wrath with your Galarian Moltres, or you want to build up damage on your opponent's Pokemon so you can swoop down with a Sableye and a Raihan and just accelerate the energy so you can use Crazy Claws for a lot of damage. This deck is really technical and difficult to play. I actually just covered on the channel literally like a day ago or so, something like that. Check that out. I have my updated video in the description, or not the description, the pinned comment. Jeez, I got a little bit confused when I'm making these videos. I think this deck is really cool. It was able to win the Late Night Series event. It's a little, like I said, difficult to play, can be clunky at times, but when it works, it is incredibly effective. So by all means, check out this deck, learn a little bit more about what's going on here. I think this deck gets much better in our Brilliant Stars format. So if anything, I think this deck's probably going to hover within the top 5, not really dropping too much more than that. I really don't think our top 2 is going to be touched, so take a jab in the comments if you think you know what the top 2 decks are. Zapping its way into the number 2 spot, seemingly permanently, is Jolteon VMAX. Number 2 last week, the week before that, for the past 2 months, 780 CP, absolutely chilling out. Jolteon VMAX is all about using Max Thunder Rumble, doing 100 damage to your opponent's active, and then 100 damage to one of their bench Pokemon. As long as they have damage counters, that is, so you can always hit them with Headbutt Tantrum or Quick Shooting. This build has been the most successful build to me. I see some players playing Capture Energies. I do see players playing a second Fan of Waves. I mean, this core list is going to be very good. I continuously see success, and I don't really see a reason why Jolteon VMAX is not going to be the number 2 or number 1 or number 3 deck. Like, it's top 3 deck material permanently right now, at least until Brilliant Stars comes out. So if you are looking for a deck that is not Mew VMAX, and we'll see if Mew VMAX is took the number 1 spot, no leaks, but we'll have to see how that goes. It's one of those things where Jolteon VMAX is consistently seeing success, and I think it's just a solid deck overall. You really cannot go wrong with this deck. It's just a technical version. I think if more players play this deck, it might be the #1 deck in format. So if you want to help push Jolteon VMAX above the #1 deck that will not be named until we jump into it, by all means, give this deck a try. Psychic leaping all the way to the #1 spot. It's been like that for the past couple months at least, and it doesn't look like anything is going to be changing it now. Double the amount of CP pretty much than Jolteon Mew VMAX. This deck's all about using Cross Fusion Strike. You can copy a bunch of different attacks like Psychic Leap or Max Miracle, Techno Blast, Melodious Echo. You have all these different options that are in the deck, such as using Genesec's unique draw engine, the Fusion Strike system, and just a bunch of trainer cards that typically are not played together, but this deck seems relatively well-oiled. It works. You don't play any draw supporters, you play just boss and also sparkles, which can accelerate energies. Mew VMAX seems to have answers against every deck, and it's so quick that you could even be drawing 2 prize cards on your first turn with Meloetta's Melodious Echo. You could be hitting for 200 plus damage easily just by attaching a few Fusion Strike energies in play. This particular build is well equipped for the current metagame, having answers against Duraludon, having answers against Jolteon, all that kind of good stuff. I think that seems pretty cool. It's just really just a solid list overall. I would recommend playing this list. I have seen some lists that play 3-2 Mew VMAX. I actually like 4 Mew V. I think that 4 Mew V is a lot better because you have free retreat. You want to start with a Pokemon with free retreat to give yourself options. I could consider cutting down to 2 Mew VMAX, but right now I think 3 is a little bit more successful across the board. So no matter what, let me know what you think about this Mew VMAX list. Let me know how the deck goes for you if you have been playing around with it. If you do have any other cool lists like 3-2 Mew VMAX, I know I've played with a Leafeon V-Star this past week to make top cut at a tournament. There's a lot of ways that you can kind of play around with Mew, but this core I think works particularly well. And if you are looking to play the best deck in the format, this is by far the best deck in the format. And that's what we got going on for this video today, peeps. Hopefully you enjoyed watching this video, learning more about the top 10 decks. I know it's getting to be a little bit of a stale format with very few decks entering in the top 10 or even the top 20. But we will be having it changing up very soon, especially with Brilliant Stars releasing on PTCGO very soon. And I will be covering a lot of different content then, so stay tuned for a lot of great content upcoming with the new set release. If you want to see a little bit more change, we do our top 11 through 20 decks every single Tuesday at 12 p.m. Eastern, so it's kind of a part 2 of this video so you can learn more about the metagame. And I wish everyone the best week possible. We have the late night series going on every single Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to have a video pretty much every single day of this week. Should be awesome. So you can learn a lot more. If you have any requests, let me know in the comments below. I just set up this new camera. Hopefully, I'm sure someone will notice, maybe not. Let me know what you think about the lighting that I have. I'm still experimenting with things, and it's going to take me some time, but like I said, I always try to do things to improve the quality of the channel, and I just got myself this new MacBook as well for editing. So let's just say the 30th birthday money that I got for my birthday was handsome, and I'm always just trying to upgrade the content quality that we can for our viewers and everyone in the community. So like I said, always give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Come on, we're so close to 10k. If you want to learn about anything more about these decks, watch those reference videos in the pinned comments below. You can always get some one-on-one coaching from me at metafy.gg/@ZachLesage. I do offer one-on-one coaching, and I can really help you grow as a player, and of course as a content creator it really helps me kind of make it my job here. It's always my job, but a little bit of extra money does not hurt. You can always go to PTCGOstore.com, plug in code ZLesage5 to save 5% on your next order of codes. That totally, I get a little bit of a splashback there, so it really helps me out as well. And of course, you could get some codes to build some awesome decks, maybe even get some Brilliant Stars codes to build some Brilliant Stars decks. I've kind of been rambling on for the past 2 minutes, so I'll catch up with all y'all later. Have a wonderful week. Peace out and have a great day. I truly appreciate you taking the time out of your day to watch this video. It means the world to me. And my goal with this channel is to spread my love of the game and knowledge with our entire Pokemon TCG community. If you haven't already, help signal boost this video to other Pokemon TCG fans by liking it, sharing it with your friends, and subscribing to the channel. Hopefully we reach our goals really soon. Check out this recommended video and have yourself a great day. Thanks.